o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For anyone who's taken notice of our agenda, it has been amended this evening. We were originally scheduled to conduct interviews for the town administrator. Unfortunately, our candidate list kind of dwindled by one today, and obviously I set the agenda and felt the board had made a commitment to bring 3 candidates to the board for final interviews. Not having 3, I've decided to put it off, probably send it back to the search committee to find another qualified candidate and then return it back to the board at a later date. Unfortunately, also, before we observe our moment of silence, the board found out recently that a very active member of our community, Marie Layler, had tragically suddenly passed away while on vacation with her husband, Ken. Marie was super active in this town. She moved to Whitman in 1977. She devoted her life to public safety as a nurse for close to 32 years. Extremely active as the president of the Whitman Historical Commission, president of the Dyer Memorial Library Trust, and was an extremely active member of our community emergency response team, also known as the CERT team, which I know Chief Clancy would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Chairman Lamartina, Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator Lynham. I just thank you for those kind words about Marie. Marie and Ken have been a longtime member and key component to the success of the Whitman CERT team. They came as a team. They were always willing and ready to come on a moment's notice. They were key to the success of the team, whether it was on the scene of an emergency or a vital operation of our town emergency operation center. Marie's work through, as Chairman Lamartina said, nursing, emergency medical services, the CERT team, and the Historic Commission impacted many people, one of which is an 18-year-old EMT student at South Shore Hospital 31 years ago. She left a lasting impression on me as I stand here before you tonight. I'd like to thank her for her service and the dedication to the town of Whitman, and may we keep the Layla family in their thoughts and prayers during this difficult time.
Amen. Thank you. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded and televised by local cable. I would seek a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. I'd seek a motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public forum, if anyone would like to get up and speak now, would be the opportunity to talk about something that's not on the agenda.
I want to take a few minutes. My name is Ken Skoglund. I live at 877 Auburndale Way, L4. And what I'd like to do, I'd just like to take a few minutes to clear up any misunderstandings regarding our request for sidewalks on Route 14 that were discussed at the last Selectmen's meeting. We're looking for state federal funds to extend or add sidewalks to the planned state-funded rebuild of Route 14 from Hog Memorial Drive to the Brockton line, not from Auburndale Village to the Brockton line. We are not looking for state funds. We are seeking your thoughts and contacts on the political side with our federal and our state representatives to help us move this request along. We appreciate the DPW. We met with them and the Board of Selectmen for their efforts for the town. And thanks for your time tonight. I just wanted to clarify those statements.
Thank you, Mr. Skoglund. Also, I was going to get to it in my chairman's report, as we've previously spoken. It was a misinterpretation of Mr. Skoglund's email to the board that I read. I thought his belief was this was in the funds for the sidewalk were included in the grant which the town received. They are not. So we would need to raise and appropriate or seek out some other form of grant funding. And as I guaranteed Mr. Skoglund, the board will, at an upcoming meeting, hear the full presentation. So thank you. All right. Seeing at 6:05, we have a public meeting in regards to the application of Whitman Post number 697, Building Associates Incorporated, doing business as the Whitman VFW, for a change of manager on the premises located at 95 Essex Street.
Any motion?
Second.
Discussion? So will you be the new,
Yes, I will. My name is James Shea.
okay. And do we have Mr. Shea's license? I believe we do.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Shea, we will now vote on that, and you'll be the new licensee. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
we'll get that relatively soon.
Thank you.
COVID-19 update provided by Chief Clancy.
Good evening again. This town week had a slight increase of 22 positive cases out of 350 tests performed for a positivity rate of 6.29%. That being said, we've been in the high 20s, low 20s, high teens for several weeks now. There's been no rapid fluctuation either way. I will keep you advised as that changes if anything significant happens. The DPW is still doing the wastewater testing. We're submitting that regularly, and I'll continue to forward the test results on to the board weekly as they come in. We have a COVID, here's my plug. We have a COVID boosted clinic tomorrow at the town hall from 9 to 1. You can pre-register on the link on the town website, or tomorrow you can walk in. We've never done walk-ins before. We will do walk-ins tomorrow. Anybody who's interested in coming down and getting a booster shot, please come on down if you want. Also, just prior to coming here, I received an email from the Board of Health. We are going to receive more test kits, and we're also going to receive some more PPE, which we will continue to distribute how we have been previously. They'll be out at the town hall and other places around town. Thank you.
Chief. Okay. Next up, new business. Act on the recommendation of Chief Hanlon to appoint Mark Feltrip to the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer through June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Next item, act on the recommendation of Chief Hanlon to appoint Joseph Hurley to the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer through June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Next up is to renew the following licenses for calendar year 2023, subject to payment of license fee, no outstanding tax issues, the submittal of all required renewal documents, and the approval, where required, of the building and fire departments. I would include this list to be as posted in our agenda, including the following categories: all alcohol club, all alcohol packaged goods store, amusement live entertainment, automatic amusements device, Class 1 auto dealer, Class 2 auto dealer, common vittler, all alcohol, common vittler wine and malt, congregate housing, farmer series pouring permit, general on-premise wine and malt, public entertainment on Sunday, rooming house, wine and malt packaged goods store.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Moving on to old business. Tonight, we'll be taking up the marijuana issue. First order of business prior to that is we have received a amended HCA agreement. Attorney Sumners will speak on the changes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. As you know, I'm Peter Sumners, legal counsel for the town, and I previously came before you a couple months ago with a Form HCA for the board to review. The board, we didn't take a vote on that, but there was a consensus that it looked good to move forward. Since then, we've gotten some more applicants. We've gotten some more comments from them in terms of how the HCA, works in practice. We've taken those into account, and we made a few minor changes to the Form HCA that I'm recommending that you use as your final version. I'll quickly go through those with you, just so you're aware. The First change is that the signature section and the introductory paragraph have been changed to indicate that the HCA will be signed by all of the members of the board instead of only the chair with authorization of the board. There were a couple typos. We changed the word on page 3, section 2A3. There was a word faculty, should be facility. That's been changed. Page 4, at the beginning of section 2A5, inserted the phrase subject to applicable law in terms of the manner in which the town will expend any impact fees received, just to make sure that everyone's clear and that this passes legal muster, that, although the town has discretion to determine how those fees will be expended, they will be in accordance with the amended law. On page 8, section 7, the previous version of the agreement indicated for cultivation and manufacturing that no air would be allowed to enter or escape a facility. After a little discussion, we realized that was really just not realistic to have no air entering or leaving, and really that it should be filtered air coming in and out. And so the provision's been amended to describe that the applicant will install a system to deal with that air and will comply with CCC regulations. And I will note that the provision continues to indicate that if there's a problem with that, the town can require additional mitigation measures. So there is a way of resolving if there is any odor issue. On page 13, section 19, there was a reference to the regulations. It said 935C. That was updated to say 935 CMR. And on page 13, section 20, again, added a provision to make sure that this passes review and legal muster. We added a sentence, this section is intended to apply solely to the terms and conditions of host community agreements entered into on or after the effective date of this agreement and shall not be construed to apply to dollar amounts paid as impact fees in any other municipality. So that's the reopener provision. We just wanted to make it clear that the new law requires impact fees to be directly related to impacts in your individual town. And so if another town gets more money from an impact fee than you, that's not grounds for reopening. It's the terms and conditions of the agreement. You still have to identify the impacts in your own town. So I don't think any of those changes will be objectionable to any of the applicants who are seeking an agreement. I don't need you to vote on these now, but at the end of this meeting, should you decide to enter into HCAs with any of the applicants, I would ask that you use this form and make a motion that indicates that the agreement will be in the form presented to you tonight. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. So, a little backstory. By vote of town meeting on May 2022, the town zoning bylaw was amended, allowing the siting of marijuana businesses within Whitman. As a condition of opening these businesses, an applicant must execute a host community agreement with the town, and the decision to execute such agreement is the discretion of the Board of Selectmen. At our last meeting, we heard from 4 presentations from 4 very qualified applicants. The town zoning bylaw only permits up to 3 recreational retailers. The mission of this board this evening is to determine which of the interested applicants, up to 3, with whom it wishes to execute a host community agreement, to and with allowing the opening of such business in the town of Whitman. At this time, I would also like Peter Sumner to possibly speak and discuss the standards by which the board can use to make their determinations this evening.
Thank you, Chair LaMattina. I just want to summarize for you briefly so that everyone's clear on the standards for the board's review. As Chair LaMattina stated, the board has a decision to make tonight. You have 4 applicants for retail marijuana businesses, and the bylaw that was approved at the May town meeting caps the number of retail marijuana establishments in Whitman to 3. And so the board has the ability to choose up to 3 of the applicants to enter into an agreement with. This is a discretionary decision for the board. It is an agreement between two parties. You do not have to enter into an agreement with anyone that you don't want to enter into. But the standard for your review, as announced by the courts, is that you have to have a rational basis for the decision that you make tonight. So if you decide not to enter into an HCA with an applicant, you should have a reason for doing that. And if you choose one applicant over another, you should have a reason for doing that. There's no specific criteria that you have to or cannot. Well, there are things that you should not consider, but there's no specific criteria that you have to consider, and you can make a decision on the whole. Your decision could be that this applicant on the whole has a better proposal than another applicant, even though one or more criteria that you're considering may weigh in favor of one or the other. In terms of criteria you shouldn't consider, obviously the board shouldn't make its decision for any personal reasons, based on personal relationships, based on any discrimination on the basis of any protected class. Instead, your decision should be based upon the benefits to the town, weighing the pros and cons of each business. So things like the geographic diversity throughout your town of the new marijuana businesses that are coming in, anticipated impacts on the town and on the surrounding neighborhood that the businesses would be placed in, the experience of the individuals who are going to be running these businesses, the anticipated tax revenue to the town, the applicant's apparent ability to actually open their business and succeed. Looking at things like their business plan, their security plan, their capitalization, their financial stability, and you can also consider the applicant's social equity status. That is a criteria that's been specifically emphasized in the recent amendment to the law. So, like I said, no one of these factors has to be determinative. That's not an exhaustive list, but those are examples of the types of pros and cons for the town that the board should be considering tonight. If there's no difference between two applicants in the board's mind, if you believe that two applications are equal, I think, in terms of a tiebreaker, I think the fairest and most equitable way of breaking a tie is to consider the applications in the order that they were presented. In terms of if an applicant applied first, I think that they should be entitled, in the event of a tie, to get the first application. So I will be here tonight. If the board has any legal questions during the review process, I'm happy to answer them. Just feel free to let me know.
Okay. How I see the process going is I'm going to ask each member their opinion as to which of the applicants the town should choose for a host agreement. Once each member has spoken, we will then come to a consensus, and I then seek a motion to adopt the new HCA, seek a motion to execute the HCA with up to 3 of the applicants. Attorney Sumner has given us the standard. It should be based on the merit of their business proposals and presentation. Mr. Kane, I'd ask you to start, please.
I'm speaking on all 4, who I support and who I don't.
You're going to speak on who you support. I don't think we need to.
I didn't know if it'd be helpful to also talk about the things that I like, but I had some tension about. But I can speak directly about it.
This is Peter Sumner, your counsel again. So you can consider all of the applicants on their merit, and so that's the good and the bad of each of the business plans or of each of the proposals. So if you believe that there are more pros for one business than another, if you have a ranking of which business you would prefer the most to the least, I think all of that would be appropriate. Just stick to the consideration of pros and cons to the town, and you'll be fine.
Sure. I'll speak to the two that I support. Well, Flowers and Soul first. I support moving forward with the Flowers and Soul Community Host Agreement for a number of reasons. It is located in an area of Whitman that we've identified as wanting to develop, bringing in multiple layers of a new and vibrant industry in a way that is professional will really help our economic development strategic priorities. In addition, I like that the owner, Brian Wall, was from Whitman. He has a strong financial background, and he currently owns another retail store in Halifax. I was impressed by many aspects of his presentation, and I think they're highly motivated to get started. So for those reasons, I'd like to see them move forward with the community host agreement. And the second one for me was Berkeley Botanical. I support moving forward with the Berkeley Botanical community host agreement. The owner and management team have strong experience in the industry, including managing retail stores. In addition, the location in town is a good complement to the Regal building, and is situated in a new complex that is ready to go. Although it is somewhat close to the Pine Haven Drive, I don't think it will have a significant impact on that neighborhood. I appreciate the thorough research they put into their presentation, and I appreciate their desire to do business in Whitman. For these reasons, I support moving forward with the community host agreement.
Stevens?
For a lot of the reasons Sean said, I think Flower and Soul is they differentiated their business. They're proposing to bring really 3 distinct businesses to Whitman in an area that we want to develop. I think it'd be a great proposal and a huge benefit to the town down there. I really like Berkeley Botanicals. I think they had a great team. Be my second pick. Great team, great location, a lot of experience. They had a great business plan too. In a part of town that, towards the East Bridgewater line, where I think from a successful business perspective, a town that has not lifted their prohibition on marijuana, it's probably likely to succeed down there. In third, I would like to say Stories. I think that I really believe in their mission. I think that they've got a really good management team. They have a great security team. And that combination of 3 businesses kind of spreads out around the town and hits a couple of good areas. It also helps that those were sequentially the first 3 applicants to apply, if that comes up at some point in this conversation.
Salvucci?
Again, I echo what previous selectmen have said. I agree that Flowers and Soul, I like their presentation. Berkeley Mechanicals, I like Stories. I just think that they're on 3 ends of the town. Right? And I think that would cover the needs of the town on all areas. And I think that all 3 of them were very good in their presentation, and I think there would be a benefit to Whitman.
You saving yourself for last, are you? Okay. I concur with the 3 gentlemen that spoke before me. I live in the neighborhood where Flower and Soul is going in, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy about that. I was particularly impressed, actually, also by the philosophy that Stories described. As many of you know, my wife has been working in substance abuse for almost 50 years. She retired as the director of High Point in Brockton in 2019. The emphasis that I heard from the presenters of Stories upon their knowledge of the opioid epidemic that we've been suffering under affected me. I thought they made a lot of... I liked their philosophy. And Berkeley Botanicals also obviously knows what they're doing. So does Mitchell Cannabis Company. All four of the applicants are qualified to have a position here. So I think I had to base my decision on Flower and Soul, Berkeley Botanicals, and Stories as the preferred applicants because of the order in which they applied. Unfortunately, Mitchell Cannabis came in actually much later than the other 3, and that's the reason why I would go with the first 3: Flower and Soul, Berkeley Botanicals, and Stories.
Okay. I will tell you, when I thought about it, it was all about impact for me, community and financial. Growing up in the East End, worried about what happens to that building down there. And I think that development, the development and the investment in that piece of property is absolutely outstanding. For that, in their presentation, I would go with Flower and Soul. To echo Carl's statements, I think over the years, we've seen what the opioid epidemic has done to our town. That definitely hit, a nerve with me that possibly other options, that from a medical end, this is being looked at. For that, I would go with Stories. Before I say the last one, I do want to thank everyone who applied and having interest in this town. My decision, again, goes back to impact, community and financial. I would rather keep this in a commercial area, not so much between homes. For that, I would go with Berkeley Botanicals. So I believe we have 5 in the affirmative for Flower and Soul, 5 in the affirmative for Berkeley Botanicals, 4 in the affirmative for Stories. It also lines up with the way these applications came in. So I would seek a motion to approve the new amended HCA agreement for use as we move forward to taking a vote on offering the HCAs.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any discussion on that prior? Sorry about that. Okay. Seeing that the board, again, we had 5 in favor for Flower and Soul, 5 in favor for Berkeley Botanical, 4 in favor for Stories. I would seek a motion of this board to offer an HCA agreement to the companies that I just mentioned.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Peter, did you have anything to add at this point?
I just want to note, so I will work with your interim town administrator and to the extent necessary, your chair, to get these agreements to the respective applicants with their individual information in accordance with the board's vote tonight. I will get a signed copy to bring back to the board for countersignature. And after that, the applicants will be able to move forward with the licensing process.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And at this time, anyone who was just involved in that would like to clear the room and give you a couple minutes. We can finish up with the agenda.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Chief Clancy, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just need to amend something. I will apologize to the board and everybody watching. I went through the entire day today thinking today was Wednesday. It is not. It is Tuesday. And the clinical COVID coordinator just reminded me via text that the booster clinic is Thursday from 9 to 1, and we will still accept walk-ins. And please come all. And it is Thursday. I
If they come
apologize.
tomorrow, they'll be really early.
If they come tomorrow, they'll be super early, and I will get in even more trouble than I am in already. Thank you.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Interim Town Administrator's Report. Frank?
Yes, on the agenda, I've asked that you place the Ellis Carlton land for discussion. I was approached the end of October by a gentleman named Matt Monroe who represents Selectmen.com, which is a sports program primarily for youth. They operate sports clinics, they operate soccer fields, ball fields, and they had an interest in some of the land that's near Camp Alice Carlton. They're actually I believe they're a Weymouth company. They have operations in Rockland. As it turns out, we own roughly 8 acres of land in Whitman that comprised Alice Carlton, and 25 acres in Rockland that comprise Alice Carlton. It's mostly wooded area. It's periodically used by people who just take nature walks through the woods and other things. It has never been very active in any of our programs. They have sought to see if the town might be interested in offering, either for lease or sale, a portion of their property. There is significant frontage on Beach Street in Rockland for that property. As far as Whitman goes, there is something a little better than a cow path on Plymouth Street. I believe it's 50 feet wide, so it sure doesn't look that wide. And that's the access from Whitman. I'm not sure what we can do legally, because the property was deeded originally to the Plymouth Bay Girl Scout Camp with a condition that should it fall into no use, should they no longer need it, it would then be transferred to the town of Whitman. And the actual deed has language that says, in the hopes that it will be used for recreational purposes, and suggests that we might name the land Alice Carlton Woods or Alice Carlton Park. I would like permission from the board to seek an opinion from council as to what our rights for use of that property are. I'm not suggesting that it be developed so much as we consider the possibility that it may be able to be used for the purposes that Selectmen are approaching us for, which would be sports oriented and would permit the town to have a stream of income putting the land to use. But again, this would be the very early stages of thought. And
So you'd be seeking a motion for us to allow you to begin those discussions?
to get advice of council and bring it back to the board, the discussion as to what our interests might be.
Okay, I'll make that motion. That was the questions. Good.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Frank, if I remember correctly, did the DPW put a gate there? A bar across because people were driving in there or trying to get in there? Or either that or dirt bikes or whatever?
Yes, I seem to remember,
Yeah.
but on the Whitman side.
On the Whitman side, yeah, right by the Rotary.
The other thing I would note that if we ultimately decide to do anything with the land other than leave it the way it sits, it would require a vote of town meeting. So it's not something that's going to be entered into without a lot of consideration and analysis. But I think it's worthwhile to at least look into it and see what our rights are.
Okay. Would there be any liability on the town's part if somebody get hurt in there if we allow that?
Not if we draw a proper contract up.
Right, no, that was my concern, and, you know, I'm certainly sure that probably the people in the area don't want a road put in and then all developed. I mean, they probably want some open space, which I think would be good, you know, whether it's for camping, for the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, whatever, Cub Scouts. I want to use it for
I'm
camping.
thinking that the land that they would, if we were to entertain leasing property, that the land that we would be leasing would be more placed in Rockland, because that's where the major accessibility to it is. They're talking somewhere around 8 acres that would provide them with fields and parking
And that's in Rockland or Whitman?
in Rockland.
And that, so they want just to have access from Whitman, or,
Well, they want use of the land.
yeah,
They wouldn't want access from Whitman, they would want access from Rockland.
so they would come in from Rockland, they would use the land, and of course, they would, okay, well, I hate to see a developer go in there and just,
And bear in mind, currently we pay Rockland a payment in lieu of tax for owning that land, which has always stuck in my craw.
and would we have
Really
any,
open space.
right, we would have some push on what they would use the land for?
We would have pretty much all of the say
Yeah.
on how it would be done, what consideration the town would receive. They would, I assume we would want to make some provisions for access for Whitman citizens for use of the land as well. Like I said, right now it is simply open space, and periodically people hike into it. About 17 years ago, Troop 22 went in there and did a cleanup of what was known as Camp Alice Carlton. We got rid of several refrigerators, washing machines, tires, all the things you'd expect to find in a natural wooded setting.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further board discussion?
I would just think the entrance runs parallel to my street, so I've wandered in there a couple of times, and it is just overgrown woods.
Did you leave the tires in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be nice to see some open space recreation there, whether it's
And that would be my thought, that,
Yeah.
look, well, if we do this, we would, as consideration, also like to see some attention given to the land to make it useful.
have a path that runs out to fields on Beach Street, because I've made the trip from Plymouth Street over to Beach Street. It's not difficult, but
And it's quite a bit of land.
yeah, there's a lot back there. But it would be nice, to see something go there, whether it's Select MA or if the town looks toward using some CPA funds in the future to develop sort of the Whitman side of it, maybe a combination of both.
Right.
Any further board discussion? Mr. Galvin?
John Galvin, High Street. I think knowing or thinking about what they're going to put in there, it sounds like sports fields. I would think it would be interesting to consider that we are given access during the time when the Whitman Middle School fields are down. So I think it's something to definitely consider going forward with that in mind.
Thank you. Okay.
You're looking for a vote on the motion?
Yes. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Let's see. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
You have permission.
Do you have anything else, Frank, this evening?
No. And I have a couple of things, actually. I was going to say no, but I think we need to bring them forward. There were some comments made in a previous meeting that kind of bothered me a little bit, relating to, in a post more than anything else, what hadn't been done in the town over the last 18 or 19 years, but was done recently, And a couple of those things included planning and policies and capital planning policies and
I think I know what you're thinking about.
it's escaping me right now.
I was, if I could speak to, I was alerted to a post that related to a discussion at this meeting that Sean brought up and with respect to our strategic plan to the budget this year, basically to the budget this year. And the post gave the impression that we are able now to discuss at an earlier stage budgetary matters because now, unlike the time, and this is the way it was put, unlike the time when Frank was the town administrator, we have some things in place that we didn't have before. For example, we have a strategic plan. We have a capital plan. We have we have some budget work, but what we don't have are procedures or protocols as far as putting limits on spending. We had, and I think what was said in the post was we didn't have that before when Frank was here, but now we do, so we can talk about things earlier. The problem is that's not true. We had a Whitman Town survey. Frank, to be clear, Frank retired on October 13th, 2020. He left here in 2020. We had a Whitman Town survey done in 2018 to 2019 that Frank was involved in hiring Dr. Tarsi to do so. We had any strategic plan. In any strategic plan, the necessary first step is to do a survey of the citizens to see where they're coming from, what they'd like to see, what they'd like the town to look like. That was done. That was accomplished. The strategic plan itself was not accomplished until after Frank, but the beginning of it was there, and he was involved totally in hiring the person that did it, and actually in that planning day. The Collins report of 2019, again, which is before 2020, gave us a capital plan. The Madden report that Randy's going to recall with a great deal of love and affection was finished in November 2019. And one of the aspects of that report, and remember that was in a committee, it was through a committee that was designed to look at whether or not we needed to do Proposition 2.5 overrides at that time. And one of the outcomes of the Madden report was that the schools would be limited to increases each year in the assessment. We would be limited each year to 5%, up to a 5% assessment for the schools. And there's a limit right there. So when I saw the post, it disturbed me that it appeared as if when Frank was here in the final years of his job, that things hadn't been accomplished. Now they are, and now we can go nuts. It's just not true. He was there for the beginning of these things. I also have to admit that one of the reasons why we got intensely involved in all of this was because Citizen Kane used to sit right over there, and he encouraged us to start doing some planning, and we did start. But there was something that bugged me because it threw some shade on the end of Frank's term of office here that he didn't deserve to have. And I don't mean to get into a discussion. I just wanted to put the truth out there.
All right, we're going to go back to the chairman's report real quick. I do have an agenda item that I left off, and this is for all members of the board as a slight refresher. According to the State Ethics Commission, as a selectman, are a municipal employee and are covered at the conflict of interest laws. All municipal employees and employees, whether elected or appointed, full or part-time or paid or unpaid, must comply with restrictions of the conflict law. The law regulates that activities of former employees and business partners of current and former employees. The purpose of the law is to ensure private interest and relationships do not conflict and respond as for your responsibility of a public official. I'm going to caution the board that what that means is, as a board, we are bound by the town's social media policy. I would highly recommend that each member that's sitting up here right now, please review that policy, because that is the guidelines by which we are bound on any further posts. It spells out private citizen, it spells out municipal employee. So I would just ask that every member refresh on that. That being said, I would seek a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kane.
Just, I appreciate your feedback. I think it's healthy for us to have healthy disagreements and be able to talk some of this stuff out. I think one of the things that bothered me so much about the discussion we had last meeting was, I think what my intention is to uphold the best practice that the Division of Local Service makes explicitly clear. It is a best practice to present a financial forecast early in the budget process. As a result, the financial management team will be aware of any potential challenges in the immediate or upcoming fiscal year, as the forecast can serve as an early warning system to detect future gaps between revenue and expenditures. And then it goes on. There are lots of explicit policy on why a financial forecast is beneficial for policymakers and for the public. What I tried to do at the last meeting was to give the public an update on where we are financially. We can do that now because of the things that are in place. And I apologize if I exaggerated. Many of those things were in place because of what Mr. Lyman did just before he left. But they weren't all complete until recently. Now that they're complete, we can put together a forecast that isn't speculation. That is what other districts do that are winning awards for their budget. I would like to win an award for how we financially approach our budget. What we're doing isn't perfect, obviously, but I want to keep taking steps in this direction to get better and better at financial forecasting. The fact that the schools are going about this process and trying to get better at it is a good thing. They put together a financial forecast based on a level service budget. In some ways, you criticize their financial forecast because I think the comment that you made was that they assumed that they were going to get more, like over 6 and 6.14 is above the 5, and it's more that they know that we can afford in a sense. But I think the task that Mr. Stanbrook was given was simply to put together a level service forecast. If you look at level service over the next 5 years, what would it cost? And that's what he did. So now we have the calculation, and we can figure that into our own calculations. That's a good thing. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard truth for sure, because this forecast happens to be a negative one, not a positive one. But I think it's better to have a hard conversation up front so that we can get on the same page, communicate back and forth with department heads and especially the schools so they can have a realistic picture of what we can really afford. To remove the financial forecast, if we eliminated the discussion we had last week and people weren't made aware of it, then I think we'd be worse off because of it. You know, holding back on that information, and in some ways, when we were at the town meeting, I would have preferred to share some of this information even at the fall town meeting, because we made decisions about fiscal year 24. We made certain decisions about fiscal year 24 at the meeting, and we didn't have access to that financial information. So for me, I'm sold on the financial forecast. I apologize if through my communication style, I didn't have a whole lot of tact, or I can improve in those areas. But for me, it's a major principle that we get better at financial forecasting, not that we move away from financial forecasting. If that's helpful.
I'll end with this. I believe a financial forecast is made when you actually have a budget presented. As many of you, if you watched the last school committee meeting, we do not have a budget from the school committee yet. The superintendent came up here, we're going to have a full presentation. Even he himself said that would not be the budget. So to go forecasting budgets, especially when the financial, a major player in the financial management team, the finance committee, has not even started interviews and discussions on departmental budgets. It was out of line, it was out of place, and it was premature. Nope. This discussion's over. I would just caution you, Sean, to make yourself aware of the social media policy, because attacking an employee, your employee, is not proper. I see we've exhausted our agenda this evening. No, the discussion's over on it, Sean.
Need a motion to adjourn?
We've exhausted our agenda. I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.